Some stories begin with a warning. This one began with a look that said, "You don't belong here," and a pair of eyes that missed nothing. It was a stormy Friday night at the Blue Lantern Diner, a neon-lit refuge on the edge of a city that never truly slept. The rain hammered the windows, turning the street outside into a river of reflections. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of coffee, fried onions, and the low hum of old rock and roll from the jukebox. At the counter, a young woman named Tessa wiped down mugs, her ponytail swaying as she moved. She was new in town, working double shifts to pay for her little brother's school supplies, and she'd already learned to keep her head down and her smile ready. But tonight, something was off. 3 men in leather jackets sat in a corner booth, their voices low, their laughter sharp. They watched Tessa with hungry eyes, whispering to each other every time she passed. The other customers noticed, but no one said a word. The cook, a gentle giant named Ray, caught Tessa's eye and gave her a nod. He'd keep watch, just in case. At a table near the window, a man in a faded ball cap sipped his coffee. His canine partner sprawled at his feet. The man's name was Cole, and he was more than he seemed. His eyes were calm, but his posture was alert, every muscle ready. The dog, a sable German shepherd named Bear, watched the room with the same quiet intensity. Cole had seen trouble before. He'd spent years as a Navy SEAL, his life a blur of danger and discipline. Now, he was just passing through, looking for peace or at least a place to rest. But old habits died hard, and tonight, his instincts were screaming. Tessa brought the gangsters their check, her hands trembling. One of them grabbed her wrist, his grip tight. "Where you from, sweetheart?" "You? Got a boyfriend?" She tried to pull away, her voice steady but small. "Please let go. I have other tables." The man laughed, squeezing harder. "We're just being friendly. Don't be rude." Cole stood, his chair scraping the floor. Bear rose with him, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The diner fell silent. Every eye turned to the confrontation. Cole's voice was calm, but it carried. "Let her go." The gangster sneered. "Or what, old man? You gonna call the cops?" Cole smiled. "Just a hint." "No need, but you should know my friend here doesn't like bullies." Bear took a step forward, his teeth bared. His eyes locked on the man's hand. The gangster hesitated, then released Tessa, shoving her away. "You got a problem, hero?" Cole shook his head. "Not yet, but you're about to." The tension in the diner was electric. Tessa backed away, her eyes wide with fear and gratitude. Ray stepped out from the kitchen, a heavy skillet in his hand. The gangsters looked at each other, weighing their options. The leader spat on the floor. "This ain't over." Cole watched them go, Bear at his side, every sense alert. But as the door slammed behind the men, Cole knew the night was far from finished. He'd seen that look before, the look of men who didn't take no for an answer. And as the rain began to fall harder outside, Cole made a silent promise. No one would hurt Tessa tonight, not while he and Bear were there. The rain outside intensified, drumming a relentless rhythm on the diner's roof. Tessa retreated behind the counter, her hands shaking as she poured a fresh pot of coffee. Ray, the cook, gave her a reassuring smile. But she could see the worry in his eyes. Cole sat back down, Bear settling at his feet, but neither relaxed. Cole's gaze swept the room, cataloging every face, every exit, every possible threat. Years of training had taught him to trust his instincts, and tonight they were screaming at him to stay alert. Tessa tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept replaying the encounter. She'd dealt with rude customers before, but never anything like this. The men's eyes had been cold, their smiles cruel. She glanced at the door, half expecting them to burst back in. Ray leaned over the counter, his voice low. "You okay, kid?" Tessa nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah? Just shook me up, I guess. Ray's jaw tightened. You let me know if they come back. I got your back. Tessa's story was one of quiet resilience. She'd moved to the city 6 months ago, fleeing a small town where everyone knew her business. Her mother had passed away when she was 16, leaving Tessa to care for her little brother, Jamie. She worked 2 jobs, took night classes, and dreamed of a better life. The Blue Lantern was supposed to be a fresh start, a place where she could blend in, save some money, and maybe, just maybe, catch her breath. But trouble had a way of finding her. Cole, meanwhile, was no stranger to trouble. After a decade as a Navy SEAL, he'd seen the worst the world had to offer. He'd lost friends, made enemies, and carried scars that ran deeper than skin. Bear had been his partner for the last 3 years, a K-9 trained for combat, search and rescue, and, most importantly, for keeping Cole grounded. Bear was more than a dog. He was a lifeline. When the nightmares came, Bear was there. When the world felt too loud, Bear's steady presence brought Cole back. Tonight, Bear's hackles were up, his eyes never leaving the door. The gangsters, known around the neighborhood as the River Street Crew, had a reputation for intimidation. They ran protection rackets, shook down local businesses, and made life miserable for anyone who crossed them. Tessa had heard the stories, but she'd never thought they'd target her. As the night wore on, the diner emptied out. The regulars paid their checks and hurried into the rain, casting nervous glances at the shadows outside. Tessa wiped down the tables, her mind racing with worry for Jamie, who was home alone. Cole watched her, noting the tension in her shoulders, the way she flinched at every sound. He wanted to help, but he knew from experience that sometimes the best thing you could do was wait for the right moment, the right words. Bear wind softly, nudging Cole's hand. Cole scratched his ears, whispering, "Good boy, we'll keep her safe." Just before midnight, the bell above the door jingled. Tessa's heart leapt into her throat as the gangsters returned, this time with 2 more men in tow. Their leader grinned, his eyes cold. "Told you we'd be back, sweetheart." Ray stepped out from the kitchen, skillet in hand. Cole stood, Bear at his side, every muscle coiled and ready. The tension in the diner was palpable. The other staff huddled near the back, unsure whether to call the police or run. The leader leaned on the counter, his voice low and menacing. "You gonna be nice to us tonight, or do we have to teach you some manners?" Tessa's hand shook, but she stood her ground. "Please, just leave me alone." The man laughed, reaching for her arm. Cole's voice cut through the room like a blade. "That's enough." The gangsters turned, sizing him up. The leader sneered. "You again. You got a death wish, old man." Cole smiled, just a hint. "No, but you might," Bear growled, his teeth bared, his eyes locked on the leader. The room was silent, every eye on the confrontation, and as the rain battered the windows and thunder rumbled in the distance, Tessa realized she wasn't alone. Not tonight. The diner was frozen in a moment of tension so thick it felt like the air itself might shatter. Tessa's breath caught in her throat as the leader of the River Street Crew glared at Cole, sizing him up. The other gangsters fanned out, blocking the exits, their eyes flicking between Bear and the skillet-wielding Ray. Cole didn't move. He stood with the easy confidence of a man who had faced down worse than this. His gaze steady, his hands relaxed at his sides. Bear's growl was a low, constant rumble, his body poised to spring. The leader smirked, trying to regain control. "You think you're a tough, old man? You got a problem with us?" Cole's voice was calm, almost gentle. "I have a problem with bullies, and with men who threaten women." The gangster's sneer faltered. He looked at Bear, then back at Cole. "You got a badge or something?" Cole shook his head. "Don't need one." Ray stepped forward, skillet raised. "You heard him. Leave the girl alone, or you'll have to deal with both of us." The gangsters laughed, but there was an edge of uncertainty in their voices. The leader leaned in, his voice a whisper meant only for Cole. "You don't know who you're messing with." Cole's eyes didn't waver. "Neither do you." For a moment, it seemed like violence was inevitable. But then Bear barked a single, sharp command that echoed off the walls. The sound was so sudden, so forceful, that even the gangsters flinched. The leader stepped back, his bravado slipping. "This ain't over," he spat, motioning for his crew to follow. "We'll see you around, sweetheart." They filed out into the rain, slamming the door behind them. The tension in the diner broke like a wave, replaced by a rush of relief and gratitude. Tessa sagged against the counter, her hands shaking. Ray put an arm around her shoulders. "You okay, kid?" She nodded, tears in her eyes.
"Thank you."
"Both of you." Cole gave her a small, reassuring smile. "You're safe now, but you should call the police. File a report." Tessa hesitated. "They'll just come back. They always do." Cole's expression hardened. "Not if we make it clear they're not welcome. Not if the whole neighborhood stands up to them." Ray nodded. "He's right. We've let them push us around for too long." Bear sat at Cole's feet, his eyes never leaving the door. The other staff and customers gathered around, murmuring their thanks. Some offered to walk Tessa home. Others promised to keep an eye out for trouble. As the night wore on, the diner slowly emptied. Tessa finished her shift, her nerves still raw, but her spirit unbroken. Cole and Bear stayed until closing, their presence a silent promise of protection. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the city felt different, charged with possibility, with the sense that something had shifted. Tessa walked home with Cole and Bear, her heart pounding with fear and hope. She told them about her brother, about her dreams, about the way the gangsters had made her feel powerless. Cole listened at his silence, full of understanding. He knew what it was to feel alone, to fight battles no one else could see. When they reached her apartment, Tessa turned to Cole, her voice trembling. "Why did you help me?" Cole threw head, a hint of a smile on his lips. "Because someone once helped me, and because Bear doesn't like bullies." Tessa laughed, the sound shaky but real. "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you." Cole nodded. "Esai's kind. You're stronger than you think." As he and Bear walked away, Tessa watched them go, a sense of safety settling over her for the first time in months. But as she closed her door, she couldn't shake the feeling that the gangsters would be back. And as Cole and Bear disappeared into the night, the city's shadows seemed to whisper of trouble yet to come.
The next morning, the city was washed clean by the rain, but the tension from the night before lingered like a bruise. Tessa woke early, her sleep restless and full of shadows. She checked on her little brother, Jamie, who was still asleep, then made coffee and stared out the window, replaying every moment at the diner. Her phone buzzed a message from Ray. "You okay? Call me if you need anything." Tessa smiled, grateful for his kindness, but her mind was still on Cole and Bear. She wondered who they really were, and why Cole's calm had unsettled the gangsters so much. Meanwhile, Cole was already up, running Bear through drills in the empty lot behind his motel. The dog's focus was razor sharp, his movements precise. Cole's mind, however, was on the River Street crew. He'd seen their type before, men who thrived on fear, who pushed until someone pushed back. After breakfast, Cole walked Bear to the diner. The place was quiet, the neon sign flickering in the morning light. Ray greeted him with a nod. "Thanks for last night." "You got a way of handling trouble?" Cole shrugged. "Just did what needed doing." Ray leaned in, his voice low. "Those guys, they're bad news. They've been shaking down businesses for months. Cops don't do much. People are scared." Cole's eyes narrowed. "They'll be back. We need to be ready." Ray nodded. "A talk to the other shops. Hey, maybe we can get people to stand together." Tessa arrived, her face pale but determined. She thanked Cole again, her gratitude genuine. "I want to help. I'm tired of being afraid." Cole smiled. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right, even when you're scared." Bear wagged his tail, sensing the shift in mood. As the day wore on, Cole kept watch, Bear at his side. He noticed a black sedan parked across the street, its windows tinted. The same car circled the block twice, slowing each time it passed the diner. Cole's instincts flared. He made a mental note of the license plate, then slipped out the back to follow the car on foot. Bear moved with him, silent and alert. They trailed the sedan to a warehouse near the river. Cole watched from the shadows as the gangsters met with a man in a suit, someone new, someone dangerous. He overheard snippets of conversation. The girl saw too much. We can't let her talk. Tonight, after closing. Cole's blood ran cold. He hurried back to the diner, his mind racing. He pulled Tessa aside, his voice urgent. They're coming for you. Tonight. We need to be ready. Tessa's eyes widened, but she nodded. What do we do? Cole outlined a plan to secure the doors, alert the staff, call Ray and the other business owners. He gave Tessa a burner phone, just in case. Ray kept a baseball bat behind the counter. Tessa worked the tables, her nerves taut, but her resolve unbroken. Bear paced the floor, his nose twitching, his eyes scanning every face. Inside, the community braced for a fight. And as the first stars appeared in the night sky, Cole knew the real battle was about to begin.
Night fell heavy and thick over the city. The Blue Lantern diner glowed like a beacon, its windows fogged with warmth and the promise of safety. Inside, the regulars lingered over their coffee, their eyes darting to the door every time it creaked. Ray moved with purpose behind the counter, his baseball bat within easy reach. Tessa worked the tables, her smile brave but her hands trembling. Cole sat near the door, Bear at his feet, every sense on high alert. He'd texted the license plate to a friend in law enforcement, but he knew help might not come in time. Tonight, it was up to them. At 10:45, the black sedan pulled up outside. The gangsters spilled out, more of them than before 6. In all, their faces hard, their eyes cold. The leader strode in first, his confidence a mask for the fear that always lived just beneath the surface. The diner fell silent. The gangsters fanned out, blocking the exits, their hands in their jackets. The leader walked up to the counter, his voice low and menacing. "We warned you, sweetheart. You should have listened." Tessa stood her ground, her voice steady. "I'm not afraid of you." The leader sneered. "You should be." Cole stood, Bear rising with him, a low growl rumbling in his chest. "That's enough. You want her. You go through me." The leader laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think you're a hero? You think your dog scares me?" Cole's eyes were cold. "You should be scared. You're outnumbered, and you don't even know it." Ray stepped out from the kitchen, bat in hand. The regulars stood, some holding chairs, others with fists clenched. The community had rallied, just as Cole had hoped. The leader pulled a gun, waving it at the crowd. "Sit down. All of you." Bear barked, sharp and commanding. The gangsters hesitated, thrown off by the dog's confidence. Cole moved fast, his training taking over. He grabbed a coffee pot, hurling it at the leader's hand. The gun clattered to the floor. Bear lunged, knocking one gangster off his feet. Ray swung his bat, catching another in the knee. Chaos erupted. The gangsters fought back, but the staff and regulars held their ground. Tessa ducked behind the counter, dialing 911 on the burner phone Cole had given her. The leader grabbed Tessa, dragging her toward the door. "Nobody move, or she gets hurt." Cole's heart pounded. He locked eyes with Bear, giving a silent command. The dog circled behind the leader, moving with the stealth of a shadow. Cole spoke, his voice calm but deadly. "Let it go. Last chance." The leader pressed the gun to Tessa's head. "Back off." Bear lunged, sinking his teeth into the leader's arm. The gun fired, the bullet shattering a window. Tessa broke free, scrambling into Ray's arms. Cole tackled the leader, pinning him to the floor. The other gangsters fled, Bear chasing him out the door. Sirens wailed in the distance. The police arrived, arresting the gangsters and securing the scene. Tessa sobbed, clinging to Ray. Cole knelt beside Bear, checking him for injuries. The dog licked his face, tail wagging. The diner erupted in cheers, the community united by courage and hope. But as the police led the gangsters away, Cole knew the fight wasn't over. There would be consequences, investigations, and maybe even more danger. But for tonight, they had won. And as Tessa hugged Cole and Bear, tears streaming down her face, she whispered, "Thank you. You saved my life." Cole smiled, his eyes soft. "You sipped your own. You stood up. That's what matters." The night was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, hope filled the Blue Lantern Diner. The aftermath of the attack left the Blue Lantern Diner in shambles. Broken glass littered the floor, chairs were overturned, and the air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and fear. The police took statements, snapped photos, and collected evidence. The regulars, shaken but safe, hugged Tessa and Ray, offering words of comfort and promises to return. But beneath the relief, a new anxiety took root. The River Street crew had been humiliated, their leader arrested. But everyone knew gangs like that didn't just disappear. Retaliation was a real threat. Tessa tried to be brave, but the fear crept in. She jumped at every sound, checked the locks twice before bed, and kept her phone within arm's reach. Jamie, her little brother, sensed her worry and clung to her, asking if the bad man would come back. Ray did his best to keep spirits up, organizing a cleanup crew and reassuring the staff. But even he couldn't hide his concern. "We stood up to them once," he told Cole. "But what if they come back with more?" Cole understood the danger all too well. He'd seen what happened when bullies were cornered. They got desperate, unpredictable. He spent his days helping repair the diner, his nights patrolling the neighborhood with Bear. The canine was always alert, his nose twitching at every unfamiliar scent, his eyes scanning the shadows. The police increased patrols, but resources were stretched thin. The detective in charge, a woman named Detective Alvarez, confided in Cole, "We're doing what we can, but these guys have connections. We need evidence to put them away for good." Cole nodded, his mind already working through strategies. He reached out to his old SEAL contacts, asking for advice and support. He taught Tessa and Ray Bossek's self-defense, showed them how to secure the diner, and made sure everyone had a plan in case of emergency. But the stress took its toll. Tessa's hands shook as she poured coffee. Her smile faded. Ray snapped at customers, his nerves frayed. Even Bear seemed restless, pacing the diner at night, whining at the door. One evening, as Cole walked Bear through the alley behind the diner, he noticed a car idling at the curb. The windows were tinted, the engine running. Bear growled, his hackles raised. Cole approached cautiously, memorizing the license plate. The car sped off, tires screeching. Back inside, Cole found Tessa crying in the storeroom. She wiped her eyes, trying to smile. "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. I'm scared all the time." Cole knelt beside her, his voice gentle. "You're not alone. We'll get through this. But you have to trust me. If you see or hear anything, tell me. No secrets." Tessa nodded, her resolve returning. "Okay, I promise." But as the days passed, the tension only grew. The gangsters' allies began to harass other businesses, spray paint threats on walls, and spread rumors about Tessa and Cole. The community, once united, began to fracture, some blaming Tessa for bringing trouble, others blaming the police for not doing enough. Cole felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He was used to danger, but this was different. These were civilians, people he cared about, people who had never asked for a fight. One night, Bear woke Cole with a bark. Someone was outside, moving in the shadows. Cole grabbed his flashlight and crept to the window. He saw a figure darting away, something glinting in their hand. The next morning, Tessa found a note taped to the diner's door. "Leave town, or next time we won't miss." The fear was back, stronger than ever. Cole knew they were running out of time. He had to find a way to end this before someone got hurt. And as he looked at Bear, the dog's eyes full of trust and determination, Cole made a silent vow. He would protect Tessa, Ray, and the community. no matter what it took. But the darkness was closing in, and the final battle was yet to come. The threat hanging over the Blue Lantern diner had changed everything. The regulars still came, but their laughter was quieter, their eyes always on the door. Tessa worked with a new wariness, her smile returning only when Jamie visited after school. Ray kept the bag close, but his hands shook when he thought no one was looking. Cole knew the community was at a breaking point. He spent his days canvassing the neighborhood, talking to business owners, urging them to stand together. Some were afraid, but others emboldened by what had happened that the dean agreed to help. They started a neighborhood watch, shared information, and set up a group chat to report suspicious activity. Bear became a familiar sight on the streets, his presence reassuring to some, intimidating to others. Children pated him on their way to school, and even the most hardened locals gave him a wide berth. One afternoon, Tessa confided in Cole. "I can't keep living like this. I want to fight back, but I don't know how." Cole nodded, understanding her fear and her courage. "You're already fighting, Tessa, but you don't have to do it alone." He taught her and Ray more advanced self, showed them how to use pepper spray, and drilled them on what to do if the gangsters returned. He also reached out to Detective Alvarez, sharing everything he'd learned about the River Street crew's movements and the car he'd seen. Alvarez listened, her respect for Cole growing. "You're good at this. Ever think about joining the force?" Cole smiled, shaking his head. "I've had enough uniforms for one lifetime, but I'll help however I can." That night, Bear led Cole to a Clua-discarded burner phone in the alley behind the diner. Cole handed it over to Alvarez, who promised to have it analyzed. "If we can tie this to the crew, we might finally have enough to bring them down." The next day, the community business owners put up signs. "We stand with Blue Lantern." Neighbors took turns walking Tessa home. Ray organized a fundraiser to repair the diner, and the turnout was bigger than anyone expected. But the gangsters weren't finished. They sent another message this time, a brick through the diner's window, with a note. "Last warning." Cole gathered the staff and regulars. "They want us scared, they want us divided. But we're stronger together. Tonight, we fight back." He set up a plan. The police would be nearby, undercover. The neighborhood watch would keep eyes on the street. Ray and Tessa would have panic buttons, and Bear would be ready. As darkness fell, the diner filled with supporters more than ever before. The gangsters circled outside, their car idling. But each time they saw the crowd, the police presence, the unwavering resolve in Cole's eyes. Inside, Tessa took a deep breath, her fear replaced by determination. "Let them come. We're ready." Cole nodded, Bear at his side. "We are." The city was holding its breath, waiting for the final showdown. And as the clock ticked toward midnight, Cole knew that everything they'd fought for was on the line. But for the first time, he believed they could win. Midnight came, and with it, a tension so thick it seemed to press against the diner's walls. The Blue Lantern was packed tragulous, neighbors, even a few off-duty cops, all there to show support. Tessa worked the counter, her hands steady, her eyes bright with resolve. Ray manned the kitchen, his bat within reach, but his heart lighter than it had been in weeks. Cole sat by the door, Bear at his feet, every sense on high alert. Detective Alvarez and a team waited in unmarked cars nearby, radios crackling with updates. The neighborhood watch patrolled the block, their flashlights sweeping the shadows. At 12:17, the black sedan returned. This time, the gangsters didn't bother with subtlety. They stormed the diner, faces masked, weapons drawn. The leader barked orders, his voice full of rage and desperation. "Everyone down. You," he pointed at Tessa. "Come here." The crowd froze, fear and adrenaline surging, but Tessa didn't move. She stood tall, her voice clear. "No, I'm not running anymore." The leader snarled, lunging for her. Cole moved faster, intercepting him with a single, practiced motion. Bear leaped, knocking another gangster to the floor. Ray swung his bat, catching a third in the ribs. The fight was chaos, shouts, crashes, the sound of glass breaking. But the community was ready. The regulars tackled 2 more gangsters, pinning them until the police burst through the door. Detective Alvarez led the charge, her team moving with precision. In minutes, the gangsters were disarmed, cuffed, and dragged outside. The leader fought hardest, but Bear held him down, his teeth bared, until Alvarez snapped the cuffs on his wrists. The diner erupted in cheers, tears, and hugs. Tessa collapsed into Ray's arms, sobbing with relief. Cole knelt beside Bear, checking him for injuries. The dog licked his face, tail wagging, his job done. Alvarez shook Cole's hand, her gratitude clear. You saved lives tonight. You and Bear. Cole smiled, humility in his eyes. We just did what needed doing. The police led the gangsters away. The threat finally ended. The crowd gathered around Tessa, Ray, Cole, and Bear, their voices full of thanks and admiration. Tessa hugged Cole, her tears now of joy. You gave me my life back. You gave us all hope. Cole hugged her back, his voice thick with emotion. You did that yourself. You stood up. You fought back. I just helped. Bear barked, as if in agreement, and the crowd laughed, the tension finally broken. As dawn broke, the Blue Lantern Diner stood battered but unbowed. The community had faced its darkest night and emerged stronger, braver, and more united than ever. But as the sun rose, Cole knew the story wasn't over. There would be healing, rebuilding, and new challenges ahead. But for now, they had won. And as Tessa, Ray, Cole, and Bear stood together in the morning light, they knew that courage, loyalty, and love could overcome even the darkest of nights. The days after the showdown at the Blue Lantern Diner were filled with a sense of relief and celebration, but also with the quiet work of healing. The story of the night, the community stood up to the River Street crew, spread quickly first through the neighborhood, then across the city, and finally to news outlets that hailed the courage of a waitress, a cook, a Navy SEAL, and his remarkable K9. Tessa became a local hero. Customers left generous tips, and strangers stopped by just to shake her hand. She was interviewed on the local news, her story inspiring others to stand up for themselves and their communities. Jamie, her little brother, beamed with pride at school, telling anyone who would listen, "That's my sister." Ray, too, was celebrated. The diner's regulars organized a fundraiser to repair the damage, and soon the Blue Lantern was better than ever. New windows, fresh paint, and a mural on the wall depicting Bear, Cole, Tessa, and Ray standing together, a symbol of hope and resilience. Cole and Bear were honored by the police department and the city council. Detective Alvarez presented them with medals for bravery, and the mayor declared a Blue Lantern Day in their honor. Cole, who had always shunned the spotlight, found himself at the center of a grateful community. Bear, for his part, enjoyed the attention, especially the treats and belly rubs from children who now saw him as a real-life superhero. But the aftermath was not without challenges. Some members of the River Street crew remained at large, and the threat of retaliation lingered. Cole worked closely with Alvarez and her team, sharing his knowledge and experience, helping to track down the remaining gangsters. The neighborhood watch grew stronger, more organized, and the sense of unity that had been forged in crisis became a permanent part of the community SIA identity. Tessa, once shy and uncertain, found her voice. She spoke at community meetings, encouraging others to look out for one another. She started taking self-defense classes, and even began training to become a volunteer with the local police. Her relationship with Jamie deepened, the two of them closer than ever. Ray, inspired by the events, hired more staff and expanded the diner's hours. He made sure the Blue Lantern was always a safe haven, a place where everyone was welcome. Cole, for the first time in years, felt at home. He continued to mentor Tessa and Jamie, teaching them not just how to defend themselves, but how to believe in their own strength. He and Bear became fixtures in the neighborhood, their daily walks a reminder that heroes could be found in the most unexpected places. But the story wasn't quite over. One evening, as Cole and Bear walked past the diner, a car slowed beside them. The window rolled down, and a familiar face appeared, the leader of the River Street crew, out on bail, his eyes cold and full of hate. "This isn't over, SEAL," he spat. "You made a lot of enemies." Cole met his gaze, unflinching. "I've faced worse, and I'm not going anywhere." The car sped off, leaving a trail of exhaust and unease. Cole knew the fight for peace and safety was never truly finished. But he also knew he wasn't alone. He had Bear, Tessa, Ray, and an entire community behind him. As the sun set over the city, the Blue Lantern's neon sign flickered to life, casting a warm glow on the street. Inside, laughter and music filled the air, and the promise of hope shone brighter than ever. But as Cole looked at Bear, he knew to stay vigilant. The final test was still to come. The threat from the River Street crew lingered like a storm cloud on the horizon. Cole knew that the leader's words weren't just empty threats. He doubled down on his vigilance, working with Detective Alvarez and the neighborhood watch to keep the community safe. Bear was always at his side, his instincts sharper than ever. One night, as the city slept, Cole was awakened by Bear's urgent barking. He sprang from bed, grabbing his flashlight and sidearm. Bear led him to the back door, where Cole found a note taped to the glass. "Last chance. Leave, or she pays." Cole's blood ran cold. He called Tessa, who answered on the first ring, her voice trembling. "Cole, someone's outside." "I heard them. Jamie's scared. Stay inside." "Lock the doors. I'm coming," Cole said, already pulling on his boots. He arrived at Tessa's apartment in minutes, Bear leading the way. The street was eerily quiet, but Cole's instincts screamed danger. He checked the perimeter, Bear sniffing the air, every muscle tense. Suddenly, a figure darted from the shadows, heading for the back door. Cole shouted, "Stop!" Bear lunged, tackling the intruder to the ground. Cole pinned the man, recognizing him as one of the crew. Asa Lee. Police arrived within minutes, Alvarez leading the charge. The man was arrested, and evidence found in his car linked him to a plot to kidnap Tessa and Jamie. The next day, the leader of the crew was picked up by police, thanks to information Cole and Bear had helped gather. The case against the gangsters was surveillance footage and the testimony of a community that refused to be intimidated. In court, Tessa faced her tormentors. With courage, she told her story, her voice steady, her eyes never leaving the leaders. Cole and Bear sat in the front row, their presence a silent promise of protection. The jury returned a guilty verdict on all counts. The crew's reign of terror was over. The city celebrated. The Blue Lantern Diner hosted a block party. The street, filled with music, food, and laughter. Tessa and Jamie danced in the street. Ray grilled burgers, and Bear basked in the attention of children who now saw him as the bravest dog in the world. Cole stood at the edge of the crowd, watching the people he had come to love. He felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. Peace earned through courage, sacrifice, and the unwavering bond between a man and his dog. But as the night wore on, Cole knew that life would always bring new challenges. The world was full of darkness, but also of light. And as long as people stood together, as long as they refused to give in to fear, hope would always win. Bear nudged Cole's hand, his eyes bright with love and loyalty. "We did it, buddy," Cole whispered. "We really did." But the story wasn't quite over. There was still one more chapter to read, a chapter of healing, forgiveness, and new beginnings. The weeks after the trial brought a gentle, lasting peace to the Blue Lantern Diner and the neighborhood it anchored. The River Street crew was gone, their threat finally broken. The city's headlines shifted from fear to hope, and the story of a waitress, a cook, a Navy SEAL, and his K-9 became a legend that would be told for years. Tessa flourished. She was promoted to manager at the diner, her confidence and kindness inspiring everyone around her. She started a self-defense class for women in the community, teaching them not just how to fight, but how to stand tall and believe in themselves. Jamie, once shy and anxious, became a leader at his school, proud of his sister and the heroes who had protected them. Ray expanded the diner, adding a wall of photo snapshots of the night the community stood together, a bear with his medal, of Cole teaching kids how to trust their instincts. The Blue Lantern became more than a place to eat. It became a symbol of what was possible when people refused to be afraid. Cole found a home in the city he'd once planned to leave behind. He continued to work with Detective Alvarez, helping train new officers and building bridges between the police and the community. He and Bear visited schools, hospitals, and shelters, their story inspiring others to believe in second chances. Bear, now a local celebrity, was never far from Cole's side. The dog's courage and loyalty had saved lives, but it was his gentle heart that won over everyone he met. Children drew pictures of him. Parents thanked him, and the city honored him with a statue in the park, a tribute to the dog who had taught them all about bravery. The final test came quietly, in the form of forgiveness. One day, Tessa received a letter from the leader of the River Street crew, written from prison. He apologized for the pain he'd caused, admitting that fear and anger had ruled his life for too long. He thanked her for standing up to him, for showing him that there was another way. Tessa read the letter aloud at the diner, her voice steady. "Forgiveness isn't about forgetting," she said. "It's about choosing hope over hate. It's about believing that people can change." The community applauded, some wiping away tears. Cole watched from the doorway, Bear at his side, pride and peace in his heart. He knew that the real victory wasn't just in defeating the gangsters, but in helping a city find its courage, its compassion, and its sense of family. As the sun set over the city, the Blue Lantern's neon sign glowed brighter than ever. Inside, laughter and music filled the air, and the promise of hope shone in every smile. Cole knelt beside Bear, scratching his ears. "We did good, buddy. We did real good." Bear wagged his tail, his eyes shining with love. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand up for someone else. Sometimes the strongest heroes walk on four legs. And sometimes the world changes not with a fight, but with a community that refuses to give up. Because in the end, courage, kindness, and loyalty are what make us family.